Hey, property's becoming more and more out of reach, both in this country and around the world, but other countries are actually taking steps now to sort of reduce the smaller landlord. And in the UK, we're finding the smaller landlords are saying it's too hard, we're getting out, it's left to the larger landlord or corporate ownerships. What do you think we need to do in this market in Australia to make housing more affordable? And is getting rid of the investment property investor really a smart thing to do?
Well, my parents bought their first house for $14,000, and that was back in 1979, 1980. And slowly but surely, look, they could barely afford that when they were young themselves, but slowly but surely they've bought themselves more and more nicer houses. They've built them themselves. Now, housing isn't out of the reach of everyday Australians if you make a conscious decision to start saving young. And also too, if you're prepared to get out of those suburbs where you grew up. Look, most of us have grown up in reasonable houses that mum and dad have managed to afford over the years. And yeah, okay, they're quite nice. I look at my young nephew, he's 18, he's just moved in with a bunch of mates. He's got holes in the floorboards in his Rockhampton household. It's not pleasant. I wouldn't like to live there, let's put it that way. But he's on a savings course to try and buy his own house down the track. And if people were prepared to look at moving to regions a little more remote, there are still job opportunities. You will find properties. I was having a look at one the other day, a fairly recent new build in Claremont, 4 bedrooms, $190,000. It is within people's reach. You may not get to live on the foreshore of Sydney Harbour. You may not get the views of Brisbane River, not that you want that dirty brown river anyway as a view, but the reality of it is you can afford property if you knuckle down, if you start saving from a young age. And that's up to parents as well. Parents have got to start educating their kids on how to set better savings patterns as well. It's hard.
You know, James, your conversation about your nephew in Rockhampton brought back these horrible memories of me living in someone's hallway with a bit of styrofoam up for modesty curtain because the rent was cheap enough. We do what we have to do to survive. Hey, speaking of rent though, there's a new scheme led by the Indigenous lobby. It's called for non-Indigenous Australians to voluntarily pay a portion of their income to Indigenous people for ancestral land claims. Now, Pauline has lambasted this. I'm absolutely with her. But isn't a voluntary payment a real winner? Couldn't we do that with the ABC as well and say, well, if we abandon the other $30 billion spent on Indigenous issues, we'll let people chip in what they want to? I mean, they could be onto a winner here, couldn't they?
I love the idea of a opt-in or opt-out system of funding the ABC. I think their $1 billion plus package would be reduced down to a couple of $100,000, let's face it. The reality of it is Aussies just won't cop this. Then, thank God, it is an opt-in suggestion at this point, but there's clearly half-wits out there that are opting in to pay to have their house built. Not only then do you pay rates and a mortgage and everything on top of that, but now they're asking you to pay a rent to the Indigenous people who may have some heritage to that land once upon a time. It won't fly with Aussies.
Crazy stuff.
They won't cop it, no way.
No, it won't at all. Hey, James Ashby, it's lovely to talk to you. You have a great Australia Day. Enjoy the rest of it, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.